The massive view screen aboard the UES Hyperion, filled with the crystalline forms of the Nexari vessels, their hulls reflecting the distant starlight like faceted diamonds. Commander Sarah Chen felt her throat tighten as she watched the alien fleet deploy into an eerily perfect formation. The Nexari had arrived without warning at the edge of the Sol system, their quantum drives leaving ripples in space-time that Earth's sensors had barely detected. "Multiple targeting locks detected, Commander," Lieutenant Park reported from the tactical station, his voice steady despite the tension. "Their weapon systems are unlike anything we've encountered before." Sarah nodded, keeping her expression neutral for the crew's benefit. The Hyperion was humanity's most advanced vessel, but compared to the Nexari ships, it might as well have been a wooden sailing ship facing a modern navy. The aliens had made their technological superiority clear in their first transmission: surrender Earth's resources or face extinction. But something about their perfect formation nagged at Sarah's tactical instincts. During her years at the Academy, she'd studied historical battles extensively, and perfection often masked underlying weaknesses. The Nexari moved with mechanical precision, each ship maintaining exact distances from its neighbors. "Run a full spectrum analysis of their movement patterns," she ordered. "Focus on their course corrections, no matter how minor." As the data began flowing across her console, Sarah noticed something peculiar. The Nexari ships made constant, tiny adjustments to maintain their formation, but these corrections followed rigid mathematical patterns. It was as if they were running on pure algorithms, with no adaptability. "Send out the probe drones," she commanded. "Random trajectories, maximum scatter pattern." The small unmanned vessels shot out from the Hyperion's launch tubes, their erratic paths causing chaos in the elegant Nexari formation. The alien ships began adjusting, but their responses seemed delayed, almost confused by the unpredictable movements. Sarah leaned forward, her eyes widening as realization struck. Their targeting systems, they're not actually superior to ours. They're just more complex. The Nexari relied on quantum predictive algorithms, but those same algorithms struggled with simple, chaotic movements. It was like a supercomputer being stumped by a child's game of rock, paper, scissors. "Send this data to Fleet Command immediately," Sarah ordered, "and prepare to implement maneuver pattern Delta 7. As the Hyperion began a series of seemingly random course changes, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had survived countless challenges through its history, not because they were stronger or more advanced, but because they understood something the Nexari clearly didn't. Sometimes the simplest solution was the most effective. The alien fleet's perfect formation began to break apart as they attempted to track the Hyperion's unpredictable movement. Their quantum targeting systems, designed to calculate complex spatial geometries, were being defeated by basic Newtonian physics. "They're falling for it," Lieutenant Park reported, excitement creeping into his voice. "Their targeting efficiency has dropped by 30%. Sarah opened a channel to Fleet Command. They had found the Nexari's weakness, and now it was time to show these aliens that humanity wouldn't be so easily conquered. Sometimes the best way to outsmart a superior opponent was to think less like a computer and more like a human. As the Hyperion continued its elaborate dance through space, Sarah began formulating a plan that would use this weakness to humanity's advantage. The Nexari might have quantum computers and advanced technology, but humans had something far more valuable: the ability to think outside the box and adapt to changing circumstances. The battle for Earth's survival was just beginning, but for the first time since the Nexari arrived, Sarah felt a surge of hope. They had found a crack in the aliens' perfect facade, and that was all humanity needed to prove that superior technology wasn't everything. Deep within the Lunar Command Center, Admiral Marcus Rivera studied the holographic display of Commander Chen's battle data with growing excitement. The evidence was undeniable. The Nexari's advanced targeting systems had a fundamental weakness that no amount of technological superiority could overcome. "It's like they've never encountered an opponent who fights dirty," Dr. Emma Watson, The fleet's lead physicist observed as she manipulated the hologram. Their entire combat doctrine is built around perfect predictability. The command center buzzed with activity as analysts and strategists pored over the data from the Hyperion's encounter. The Nexeri fleet remained at the edge of the solar system, their crystalline ships maintaining their precise formation while waiting for Earth's response to their ultimatum. Their quantum targeting systems are designed to calculate every possible variable. Emma continued, highlighting sections of code their cryptographers had managed to decode. But they're so focused on complexity that they've forgotten how to handle simplicity. It's like trying to use calculus to solve a basic addition problem. Admiral Rivera watched as the simulation showed how the Hyperion's erratic movements had confused the alien targeting systems. They've evolved past conventional warfare, he mused. But in doing so, they've lost the ability to handle unconventional tactics. The revelation sparked a memory from his early days in the service. During training exercises, rookie pilots often outperformed veterans because they didn't follow traditional dogfighting patterns. The veterans' experience actually worked against them when faced with unpredictable opponents. What if we weaponize unpredictability? He suggested, reaching for the hologram controls, not just in our ship movements, but in our entire battle strategy. Emma's eyes lit up as she followed his thinking. Their quantum processors would try to calculate every possible outcome, she said. But if we introduce enough chaos into the equation, their systems would be overwhelmed trying to process all the variables, Rivera finished. They'd be forced to fall back on more basic targeting methods. The admiral turned to the assembled staff. I want every ship in the fleet retrofitted with manually controlled maneuvering thrusters, he ordered, and get me every pilot who's ever flown in atmospheric conditions. The more experience with unpredictable wind patterns, the better. As the command center erupted into action, Rivera received a priority message from the Hyperion. Commander Chen had discovered something else during her encounter with the Nexeri. Their ships always maintained a minimum safe distance from each other, suggesting their perfect formation wasn't just about efficiency. They're afraid of collisions. Chen's voice came through the quantum comm. Their ships are incredibly powerful, but they might be just as fragile as they are beautiful. Rivera smiled as the pieces of a plan began falling into place. The Nexeri's technological advancement had led them to eliminate what they saw as inefficient, primitive aspects of combat. But in doing so, they had created blind spots that humanity could exploit. Begin Operation Broken Mirror, he commanded. It's time to show these aliens that sometimes the best technology is no technology at all. Across the solar system, human ships began implementing the new strategy. Targeting computers were switched to manual mode, and pilots began practicing maneuvers that would have been considered suicidal under normal combat doctrine. The Nexeri's perfect formation was about to meet humanity's controlled chaos. As the preparations continued, Rivera couldn't help but appreciate the irony. The aliens had expected humanity to either surrender in the face of superior technology or attempt to match their advanced capabilities. Instead, they were about to learn that humans had millennia of experience fighting against supposedly superior forces. Send word to all ships, he ordered. Operation begins in 24 hours. And remind everyone, the more random their actions appear, the better our chances of success. The battle for Earth was about to enter its second phase, and humanity's greatest weakness, their unpredictability, was about to become their greatest strength. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter had always been humanity's mining frontier. Now it would become their greatest weapon. Commander Sarah Chen watched from the Hyperion's bridge as hundreds of mining vessels, stripped down to increase their maneuverability, took up positions throughout the belt. Mining Control reports all ships in position, Lieutenant Park announced. Gravitational tethers are charged and ready. Sarah took a deep breath, remembering the countless hours of simulation runs. What they were about to attempt hadn't been tested in actual combat, mostly because no one had ever been desperate or crazy enough to try it. Begin Operation Slingshot, she ordered. All ships, execute on my mark. The mining vessels activated their gravitational tethers simultaneously, creating a complex web of gravitational fields throughout the asteroid belt. These fields began to shift and pull, setting thousands of asteroids into carefully calculated but seemingly chaotic motion. Nexari fleet is responding, Tactical reported. Their formation is adjusting to account for the debris field. Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. The aliens' response was exactly what they'd predicted: methodical, calculated, and utterly inadequate for what was coming. Their quantum computers would be trying to plot the trajectories of thousands of asteroids, each affected by multiple overlapping gravitational fields. "Launch the drones," she commanded. The Hyperion released its complement of unmanned vessels, each programmed with a different erratic flight pattern. They darted between the asteroids, their movements adding another layer of complexity to the already chaotic scene. The Nexari ships began to show signs of confusion. Their perfect formation wavered as their targeting systems struggled to process the overwhelming amount of unpredictable movement. Some ships started making jerky, overcorrected maneuvers, while others seemed to freeze in place. They're experiencing cascade failures in their targeting networks. Emma's voice came through from Lunar Command. Their quantum processors can't handle this many random variables. They're starting to shut down. Sarah watched as the elegant alien formation began to break apart. The Nexari ships, unable to rely on their advanced targeting systems, were forced to fall back on more basic navigation methods. But their crews, accustomed to letting their technology handle everything, were ill-prepared for manual combat. "All ships, begin Phase 2, Sarah ordered. The mining vessels started adjusting their gravitational tethers, creating slingshot corridors through the asteroid field. These corridors would appear random to the Nexari sensors, but they had been carefully calculated to give human ships clear attack runs while forcing the aliens to deal with a constant barrage of debris. The first wave of Earth's fighters shot through these corridors, their pilots relying on instinct and training rather than computer guidance. They weaved between asteroids with practiced ease, years of atmospheric flight making them comfortable with unpredictable conditions. Multiple impacts on Nexari vessels, Tactical reported with growing excitement. Their shields are optimized for energy weapons. They're not designed to handle kinetic impacts. The beautiful crystalline ships began showing signs of damage as they were peppered with smaller asteroids and debris. Their formation, once a perfect geometric pattern, had devolved into chaos as individual ships tried to avoid the endless barrage of space rocks. "They're attempting to regroup," Park announced, picking up energy signatures consistent with their quantum drive systems. "Not this time," Sarah muttered. "Execute Operation Scattershot." The mining ships suddenly reversed their gravitational tethers, creating a ripple effect through the asteroid field. Thousands of rocks were suddenly pulled in different directions, creating a three-dimensional web of debris that made coordinated movement impossible. Several Nexari ships, attempting to maintain their minimum safe distance from each other while avoiding asteroids, found themselves boxed in by their own safety protocols. Others, trying to calculate safe passage through the debris field, had their quantum processors crash from data overload. Message from Nexari command ship. Communications reported. They're requesting a ceasefire. Sarah allowed herself to relax slightly. The Nexari had finally encountered something their advanced technology couldn't handle: organized chaos. Their perfect formations and quantum targeting systems were useless against an enemy who turned randomness itself into a weapon. "Send to all ships," she ordered. "Hold position but maintain asteroid field control." Let's hear what they have to say. As the battle paused, Sarah couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Humanity had just proved that sometimes the best way to beat superior technology was to think outside the box, way outside the box. The Nexari were about to learn that there was more to warfare than having the most advanced weapons. The ceasefire lasted exactly 6 Earth days. The Nexari used that time to analyze their defeat and attempt to adapt their strategies. But their response proved exactly what humanity had suspected. They were incapable of truly understanding what had beaten them. Admiral Rivera stood in the Lunar Command Center, watching the holographic display as the second Nexeri fleet dropped out of quantum space. This force was 3 times larger than the first, but something about their formation had changed. "They're trying to imitate our chaos," Dr. Emma Watson observed, studying the sensor data. "Look at their movement patterns. They've introduced deliberate randomness into their formations." But there was something off about the Nexeri's version of unpredictability. Their ships moved in carefully calculated, random patterns, each deviation precisely measured and coordinated. It was chaos by formula, predictability masquerading as randomness. "They're still thinking like machines," Rivera mused. "They've created an algorithm for unpredictability, but that's exactly what makes it predictable." The Nexeri advance was met by a seemingly disorganized response from Earth's forces. Ships moved in patterns that made no tactical sense, fighters executed maneuvers that seemed to waste fuel, and communication channels were filled with apparently meaningless chatter. "Sir," a young lieutenant called out, "we're detecting quantum scanning pulses. They're trying to analyze our movement patterns." Rivera smiled. The Nexeri were doing exactly what they'd expected, attempting to decode a pattern that didn't exist. Their rigid, hierarchical thinking couldn't grasp the concept of true randomness. "Execute Operation Butterfly," he ordered. Across the solar system, human ships began implementing completely individual battle plans. Each commander had been given a simple objective, but total freedom in how to achieve it. There was no master strategy to be decoded, no pattern to be discovered, just hundreds of humans making thousands of individual decisions. The Nexeri fleet's attempts at controlled chaos quickly broke down as they tried to respond to actual chaos. Their quantum computers, programmed to find patterns, began reporting contradictory data as they failed to predict human actions. "They're trying to re-establish their original formation," Tactical reported. "Their randomization protocols are failing." "Now," Rivera commanded, "implement Phase 2. The real trap was sprung. As the Nexeri ships attempted to regroup into their comfortable, ordered formations, they found themselves being herded by seemingly random human maneuvers. Each alien ship, following its basic programming to maintain safe distances, was subtly guided into position. "Their quantum targeting systems are offline in 60% of their ships," Emma reported excitedly. "They're falling back on conventional targeting computers." That was when the second part of humanity's plan revealed itself. The apparently wasteful maneuvers their ships had been performing had actually been laying down a complex network of gravitational mines, small devices that could alter local gravity in unpredictable ways. "Detonate the minefield," Rivera ordered. The space around the Nexeri fleet erupted in gravitational chaos. Ships that relied on precise calculations for their movement suddenly found themselves pulled in multiple directions. Their rigid formation, already stressed by trying to counter human unpredictability, shattered completely. "They're dropping like flies," someone shouted as Nexeri ships collided with each other, their careful minimum distance calculations thrown off by the gravitational distortions. Rivera watched as the mighty alien fleet descended into confusion. Their attempts to copy human unpredictability had actually made them more vulnerable. They had abandoned their strengths without truly understanding their weakness. "Message from the Nexeri command ship," communications announced. They're asking how we're coordinating our attacks without a central control system." The Admiral laughed. The aliens still didn't understand. There was no coordination, no central control. Just humans doing what humans had always done best: adapting, improvising, and overcoming. "Tell them," he said, "that our secret weapon is chaos itself. And we've had millions of years of evolution to get comfortable with it." As the second Nexeri fleet retreated in disarray, Rivera knew the war wasn't over. But humanity had proven something crucial. Sometimes the most sophisticated response to superior technology was to embrace simplicity. The aliens had built their entire civilization around predictability and control. never imagining they would encounter a species that thrived in chaos. The final battle began not with a bang, but with silence. The Nexari's third and largest fleet emerged from quantum space with their communication systems completely silent. They had finally realized that human ships were using their transmissions to predict their movements. Commander Sarah Chen, now coordinating the defense from the newly commissioned UES Prometheus, watched as the massive alien armada approached. Their crystalline ships had been modified, their formerly beautiful designs now bristling with conventional weapons alongside their quantum arrays. "They've adapted more than we expected." Admiral Rivera's voice came through on a tight beam transmission. "They've stripped down their quantum systems and are running on basic computers. They're trying to think like us." Sarah studied the tactical display. The Nexari fleet's formation was looser, less rigid than before. They had learned from their previous defeats, but their adaptation revealed a fundamental misunderstanding of what made humanity effective. "They think our strength is in being primitive," she replied. "They don't understand that our real advantage is in being flexible." The human fleet waited, scattered across the solar system in apparently random positions. Every ship captain had been given just two pieces of information: the basic objective and a simple code phrase. What happened after that would be up to them. "All ships," Sarah broadcast on an open channel, knowing the Nexari would hear, "Operation Pandora is in effect. I repeat, let chaos reign." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Every human ship began executing completely different tactics simultaneously. Some charged straight at the Nexari fleet, others performed complex evasive maneuvers, and still others appeared to retreat in panic. The Nexari response was telling. Their ships, trying to operate without their quantum systems, attempted to adapt to each threat individually. But their hierarchical command structure couldn't handle the speed of decision-making required. "Now," Sarah ordered, "show them what humanity really does best." That was when the true nature of Operation Pandora was revealed. The apparently random positions of human ships suddenly made sense as they began working together in small, autonomous groups. Each group operated independently, but complemented the others perfectly, creating a fluid, ever-changing battle strategy that was impossible to predict or counter. "They're trying to reactivate their quantum targeting systems," Tactical reported. "They can't handle this level of complexity with conventional computers." Sarah smiled. The Nexari had fallen into the trap of assuming humans were choosing between order and chaos. They didn't understand that humanity's real strength lay in their ability to create order within chaos, to find patterns in randomness, and to cooperate without central control. The battle space erupted in a display of coordination that looked like confusion to the alien fleet. Human ships weaved between each other in intricate patterns, using their apparent randomness to set up precise attack runs. The Nexari, caught between their instinct for order and their attempt to mimic human unpredictability, found themselves unable to mount an effective defense. "Their flagship is powering up its quantum drive," Lieutenant Park announced. "They're attempting to retreat." "Not this time," Sarah commanded. "Execute final protocol." Across the solar system, hidden installations activated, creating a web of gravitational distortions that made quantum space travel impossible. The Nexari fleet was trapped, forced to fight on humanity's terms. The alien ships, their crystalline hulls no longer gleaming as proudly, began to break formation. Without their quantum systems and unable to retreat, they were forced to fight ship to ship, human to alien. It was exactly the kind of battle they had evolved beyond, and exactly the kind humanity excelled at. Message from the Nexari command ship, communications reported. They're requesting terms for surrender. Sarah exchanged glances with her bridge crew before opening a channel to the alien flagship. "This is Commander Chen of the United Earth Fleet. We accept your surrender on one condition. You must understand why you lost." There was a long pause before the response came. The Nexari commander's voice sounded confused, almost desperate. "Your tactics defied all logic. Your ships acted without central coordination. Your strategies had no discernible pattern. How can any civilization function this way? That's exactly why we won, Sarah replied. Humanity doesn't need everything to make sense. We don't need perfect order or absolute control. We thrive in uncertainty because we understand something your civilization forgot. True strength lies not in eliminating chaos, but in learning to dance with it. As the Nexeri fleet powered down their weapons, Sarah couldn't help but feel a touch of sympathy for them. They had built their civilization on the premise that technology could solve every problem, that enough computing power could predict every outcome. They had never considered that some problems required less technology, not more. The war was over. Humanity had proved that their greatest weakness, their unpredictability, was actually their greatest strength. And perhaps, Sarah thought, they had taught the Nexeri a valuable lesson. Sometimes the most advanced civilization isn't the one with the most sophisticated technology, but the one that remembers how to embrace the simple chaos of existence.